We'll bring our meeting to order. Please welcome yourselves to our November 12th meeting of the Liberty Lake Planning Commission. We'll begin with our roll call.
Joe Mann,
Here.
Tom Sahlberg,
Here.
Jim Baumker,
Here.
DG Garcia, Charlie Jenks,
Here.
and Phil Follier, Gene Hoyshel.
No, Commissioner Follier let Lisa know that he wasn't going to be able to come. So I entertain a motion to excuse him.
Move to excuse Phil.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry, Troy, you're on a different little section here.
Okay.
Troy Mullenix.
Moved by Commissioner Sahlberg, second by Commissioner Jenks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Would you please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We will move on to general business. First is a review of our agenda for this evening. Any changes or additions to the agenda? Motion for approval? Move to approve. Commissioner Jenks, motion. Second, Commissioner Sahlberg, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes, any changes or omissions in the minutes? Commissioner Sahlberg?
Yeah, I've got one change. It's an addition and I appreciate that we are trying to be minimalist in our recording of our minutes, but we completely missed that in the park plan presentation that we needed to add the Centennial Trail to the listed parks in Liberty Lake. And that includes not just level of service, but the amount of space that we have. And based on what Jen told us, that it was 7+ acres of additional space that we have. So if we could just add that to.
We can add that, but we did make an agreement that we were going to do a joint meeting with the
Right.
Parks Commission, and we'll be specifically talking about that at that meeting. So
We did have a conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'd move to add that.
Is there a second to that motion? Second. Commissioner Jenks, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we entertain a motion to approve the amended minutes. All in favor, or is there a motion?
I make the
Move to approve. Commissioner Baumker, second. Commissioner Jenks, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All, thank you. We shall move on now to our workshops. The first one is our updated utilities and public facilities element of the comprehensive plan.
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to have to stop this share and share another document. So, wanted to just give you a quick update on the draft Chapter 10 Utilities and Public Facilities. And it was amended basically to add in the city facilities master plan information, which has been adopted by the city. So there's a summary of that in there. But at the same time, our Public Works Director also reviewed that and informed me that Waste Management Services has changed their name to WM.
Yeah.
So, so that's been corrected on page 7 of the page 6 of the document. And then the only other real change is with a summary a summary of city facilities and the master planning program. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to just scroll through. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at this and just see if anybody has any comments on page 11 or page 12.
Who did this?
I'm sorry, we have different numbers, Lisa.
You do have different numbers. Okay, well, sorry about that. All right, different page numbers?
In our packet, all we have is,
My numbers are correct.
are they? Okay.
It's where all the red writing is.
So we're all the way into this, the transportation portion?
No, not the
No.
transportation portion.
We're in the utilities and public facilities.
Gotcha. Okay.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
So are you jumping
This
to
is what
the,
it looks like.
I'm
That.
jumping all the way ahead to city facilities.
who prepared this?
So I basically summarized what was in the master facilities plan that was
Yeah.
adopted by city council, which was prepared by BCRA.
Who?
BCRA, yeah, they're an architectural firm.
Lisa, I have a question. When I look through this, I think it's really well done. But I had a question with regard to electrical utilities. I've had experience dealing with the PUC on their standards for electrical utility installations. And I would assume that the PUC manual is used here as well for the utilities. One of the things that we found in reducing the cost of housing was working with those standards and trying to get them into the realm of reality. I mean, sometimes these utility companies want you to install underground boxes that are as big as a bomb shelter. And there's really no reason to do that. So getting some kind of coordination between the utilities and the development entities and maybe the city to say, how can we reduce or modify these standards to make them more economic for us?
This is a good thought. However, that is, the electrical code is all under labor and industries. The city does not even review electrical plans. It is labor and industries that does everything with it. And so we're not even at the table on
Well,
this.
we could have a policy, though, that says we encourage these guys working together to reduce costs for housing.
It's a state regulation. They're following state regulations. So yeah, I'm sorry, it's not, it's kind of like our saying that we disagree with the requirements of the Growth Management Act. It doesn't change the fact that we have to follow it. And in this particular case, as it relates to electricity, I think it's a fine statement, and that is something that probably more appropriately is in the housing element. But, and we do want to look at standards. One of the things that we recognize that, one of the things that's causing a significant increase in the cost of housing is state building code. And so it's working, it's antithetical to what, it's a policy that's working against
What you're trying to achieve.
what you're trying to achieve, because it's also trying to achieve things like energy efficiency, et cetera. And, there are policies that are significantly counterproductive to one another.
Okay, I get it. I understand.
So I mean, it is something that we could do. As I said, if it's a matter of housing affordability, I think that's probably a goal or policy that would better sit in the housing, because it might have more legs there. Yeah.
Okay.
But to Charlie's point, we've got so many action words that we're using in our goals and our policies now, encourage, coordinate, that kind of thing. We can't add encourage coordination with state agencies to have a sensible and affordable standard.
Yes, we could.
Well-
But again, my point
I
is
know
that
it's,
it,
we have no say in the deal,
well,
but we still could.
my second point was that it's better served
In
in
the
the
housing.
housing.
Okay.
And so that's, Lance, I want you to make sure you make a note that we want to look at that in the housing element.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks,
Uh,
Tom.
Oh, I think.
Commissioner Bunker?
Just a couple of questions. The consultant, BCRA, who was giving directions to that consultant?
The city administrator and, Ben Turner, the Public Works Director.
And then the preferred alternative, who came up, was the preferred alternative, was that coming from BCRA?
They went through a series of evaluations. They got feedback from the community and the general public. And at the end of the day, city council adopted that preferred alternative.
Were the other alternatives a part of that October meeting?
Yes, they were
Okay.
all included in the report.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa.
Anything else? Any other questions or comments?
Any-
How about page 13? Yes, page 13. Funding and implementation. It's just a very generic statement. We're going to be going into a lot more detail when we get to the capital facilities plan on this, but, again, it's a summary of what was identified in that master facilities plan.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we can move on to transportation.
Lisa?
Yes.
Just quick question on this, on the library. I don't know how far down the road this library program is. I think they've determined they found a site. But my question is this, I had a brief experience with a private school that wanted to develop a performing arts facility. And one of the major benefactors called me and he said, have you seen the proposal that the school came up with for this performing arts facility? And I said, no, I haven't. He said, well, you better take a look at it because it's impossible. We can't get the money to build this. It was a $20 million proposal for a performing arts facility for a small private school. So what I ended up doing was having a focus group, and I sat down with the folks in the performing arts community, and I said, look, this isn't about what you want. This is about what you need. And we took that $20 million price and took it down to about 12 million. Just by having the discussion and getting rid of the stuff, the wants that maybe aren't really necessary. Has that happened in this process?
So I think it has to some degree, but again, I think that we're going to be looking at this more specifically. This is a conceptual plan at this point. We will be looking at it as part of the 20-year capital facilities plan, but it's going to require much more detailed planning as we get closer. And one of the things we have to do as part of this is figure out what the funding mechanisms are.
You bet.
And so, and that's one of the things that's going to be some pretty significant conversations with city council. Even as we talk about this year's 6-year plan and our budget this year, next year, the heavy lift is going to happen as it relates to this capital facilities plan and really starting to recognize that our city is, we were a young city. And so we didn't have a tremendous amount of infrastructure cost. Our infrastructure is starting to age and we need to invest in the maintenance of that, as well as we need to look at what the growth of our city means in terms of other city facilities. And so and we've got the Parks Master Plan going on at the same time. That's going to feed into it. We've got the pavement master plan that we're using some of that data right now to figure out what that looks like in terms of maintenance over a 20-year period and how we prioritize that and what policies we put in place and then we have to, but we do ultimately have to have a serious conversation with the community about how these things will be funded. And that is exactly the point of doing a 20-year capital facilities plan. Because
We need, not what we want.
I
but what we
agree.
need.
I agree. And again, and that is one of the conversations. That was one of the things that came up as we were talking about even the 6-year capital facilities. And the reality is that, as a city, we have to some degree been flying by the seat of our pants, financially speaking. And we now have to, as we're getting to a point, we're growing up, we have to put on our big boy pants.
Well, and after the advisory vote, we're a little bit back to the drawing board. I'm not even sure that the site is as solid as it was before. The framework is there, but we're not even through the budget process for how much is going to be left in the library fund.
Sure.
And so looking ahead at what they're proposing, and I think we could be looking at 2027 or 2028, even on the proposed budget that the council hasn't voted on
Right.
yet.
And again, this is a working draft and it's the best information we have right now based upon the plan that council adopted.
Yep.
We adjust with our capital facilities plan. We will be adjusting with this as well. So I am sharing with you what we have as the best available information at this moment.
There's
And
more work
to
to
come.
do.
More work to do,
Okay.
absolutely.
One other question.
Yeah.
Is it safe to assume that the consultant never looked into leasing of facilities,
Never looked into leasing facilities.
into the idea of leasing a facility?
I think that's probably a fair statement.
Okay.
Are we ready to move on to transportation element?
Yeah.
All right.
Shall we?
So, yes, shall we? So, first I wanted to start off just talking a little bit about the Growth Management Act requirements for transportation element. We do have to, wait, am I on the, okay. So we have to look at projected travel demand over the 20-year planning period, and as well as projected traffic impacts to state-owned facilities. And this, of course, is based upon land use, population, and employment projections. And we also have to show our work, as it were, as it relates to those land use assumptions. We also have to look at facilities and service needs in terms of inventorying of transportation facilities and services. We need to look at level of service standards for locally owned arterials, state highways, transit routes, and actually multimodal facilities also. And so that is one. We also have to look at forecasted traffic for at least 10 years. As you know, that's why we're investing in the network analysis. And that helps us to identify what the level of service standards point to where we need to invest in the system. And the forecasted traffic, et cetera, helps us to identify those improvements. And then we have to demonstrate that we have the funding capacity to meet the needs and have a minimum of a 6-year financing plan. That's the capital facilities plan. In this particular case, because of where we are at in our growth as a city, and because we're looking at build out over the next 20-year planning period, we feel that it's uber important for us to wrap our heads around the 20-year capital facilities plan. And I think that it forces us to have the serious conversations we need to have about the financial responsibilities of a city of our size. The GMA also requires that we do intergovernmental coordination, and specifically, this transportation element will be reviewed by SRTC, STA, as well as WashDOT. And so, we also have to talk about demand management strategies. Concurrency, we have a good concurrency system in place at this point. And concurrency, what it means is that if a development is proposed, you have to be able to demonstrate that it's not going to cause your level of service to fall below the acceptable levels, unless, or that you at least have planned improvement in the 6-year capital facilities plan, or the developer is required to make those improvements. And so that's kind of the concurrency system. We look at that very closely. It's one of the reasons why we keep so up to date on our network analysis. It's why we really look at Harvard Road impact fees as a way to kind of keep ahead of and anticipate what we need to make sure we have funding that we can go after grants, et cetera. We also need to address multimodal transportation improvements or strategies that such that they are made concurrent with development. So the requirements for putting in bike paths and sidewalks and widen streets, et cetera. And we do that. It's already in our policies, et cetera. So I shared with you the old transportation element, which is a little rough around, yes, a little rough around the edges, and I wrote some commentary. There's almost nothing salvageable. There's some salvageable stuff in there, but most of it needs to be really rewritten and really updated significantly. We have to provide updated transportation network maps, and I'm talking about not just the streets, but sidewalk, pedestrian paths, bike lanes, the whole meal deal. Also, our roadway classifications, as you probably saw, we had collectors identified in the River District Plan, and we had arterials and boulevards identified, and we don't really have the classifications in yet. It's a pretty significant piece of the puzzle because grant funding depends upon your functional classification. And so, that's and functional classification, if we're going to change it, and I don't think we've changed it since we incorporated, frankly. Functional classification is something that we have to, if we want to make changes, we have to file with WashDOT. WashDOT becomes the keeper of those functional classes. And the classifications we have that are in WashDOT right now are not reflective of what is happening today. And so that's a very major piece of it, and something that I want to talk to you about today specifically. We also have, engineering design standards and policies that effectively require complete streets, but we don't have a true complete streets ordinance. And that is one of those things we want to talk about that. And I think that we probably want to add that to our implementation chapter and actually include that as part of our development code amendments when we go through. And whenever somebody looks at me and says, do you have a complete street ordinance? My answer is, well, not an ordinance. We have the policies, we just don't have the ordinance. So that's something that we can easily rectify as we're doing our development code amendments. I wanted to point that out to you. We also really have to look at our future planned improvements. And that's what you saw that in the network analysis. We're shopping that right now with other transportation agencies and adjacent jurisdictions. And we will be, the final on that will also include cost estimates associated with those. So that's going to feed right into the 20-year capital facilities plan. So we know what improvements we need to make in the next 20 years. We also have to include transportation finance strategies, and we will include some of that in this, some discussion about this, but really that will be addressed as part of the 20-year capital facilities plan, because we will make sure that it's a fiscally constrained 20-year capital facilities plan. I think that's super important. We also need to update our goals and policies. Some of them are very out of date. And I did include red lines for you, and I do hope to get through those today. It's probably the meatiest thing that I have other than the functional classification discussion. And that's an important one. And then finally, we will include an implementation plan in this one. And it doesn't, but I actually, you saw the outline. I already have a number of items on to include in that implementation plan. So hopefully it was helpful for you to see the commentary on the old one, and then see the outline that was prepared for. And I'm in the process of literally writing the document as we speak, but I think there's what I wanted to talk to you today was about some of the decision points that we need to make. And so let's jump into functional classification of the discussion.
So these comments, you're Lisa, and then is that Amy?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So functional classification for the road, it's a hierarchical way of classifying roadways based on a number of factors. It's not a science, it's more of an art. And its classification is based upon the primary purpose. Is it for local routes? Is it connecting major centers? Is it do you have a lot of through traffic? It also is based on traffic volume, And roadway design is kind of a chicken and egg thing. The roadway, the classification should drive your roadway design, but the roadway design may also limit what your functional classification may be. And your role, the role within the network. So is it just connecting to more major arterials, or is this really just serving the residents that live along it? Or the businesses that are along there. The classification hierarchy used by WashDOT is interstate and other principal arterial. So it's then minor arterial, then major arterial, then minor collector, then local. And I wanted to share with you typical roadway parameters by functional classification. So again, as I said, one of the things that as you're looking at classification, principal arterials and minor arterials are intended to carry higher volumes of traffic. They typically have more access control precisely because they're trying to facilitate the movement of through traffic. And so and that's both a safety and a vehicular mobility issue.
Lisa,
Yeah.
You were mentioning boulevard as one of the examples that you gave earlier. What's a boulevard considered?
So a boulevard is actually, and you'll see on the map, a boulevard in our comprehensive plan talks about, these are the landscape boulevards. We use that as it's a traffic calming technique for higher functioning like arterials,
So
to slow the traffic and to be able to create some.
could be either one, principal or minor then?
It could be
Okay,
either.
That's all.
yeah.
I need.
And then just on
In some cases, we see it on collectors also because it's.
Oh, sure, because
The
it's,
Greenstone Way.
does access control include, I know it's streets, but does it include parking lot access?
So it does include parking lot.
It does?
access. So yes, so.
Driveways?
Yeah, so the access control, and we have this right now. This is
Okay.
right now in place for our collectors and our, or for our minor arterials and our principal arterials, that 300-foot separation. And there are, you can get design deviations. We do sometimes
Mhm.
allow for a right in, right out, depending upon the use and whatnot. So there are ways that we can accommodate, we can make, but we've held very close to that.
What does the access control, is that just one way? In other words, you can have access here, then right across the street, another access.
Yeah, so we try and
So it's just one way.
well, we do try and align them. We do try and make sure that they're aligned in use. Typically because these are typically areas where you may have center turn lanes, or they more likely where they are identified as boulevards, and we're trying to maintain the ability to eventually install Country Vista being a great example, where we have done, I think, Herculean effort to try and make sure that we've maintained that so that we can put those boundaries in.
Through several
Center-
iterations.
Yeah, you're right. Anyhow, collectors, 150 feet, local or 50 feet or less, and again, when we say 50 feet or less, very often in residential, there's not even the 50. In River District, there's certainly not the 50-foot separation, but for local streets. So, and the ADTs, that's average daily trips. And we did measure those as part of the network analysis. One of the things that we did for the transportation chapter that you didn't see in the draft is we created a map that actually identified our existing ADTs as well as our future ADTs. I gave you a large one because I'm going to put it up on the screen, but you're not going to be able to read it.
That's good.
So
So when it says ADT, that's the total AM and PM.
No, it's all day.
all day.
Average daily trips. So it's
Okay.
all the vehicle trips per day. And if you go back to this map, and I kind of wanted you to look at this so that you could see, principal arterial is anywhere from 7,000 to 27,000. Minor arterial is 3,000 to 14,000. Now you see there's a lot of overlap. As I said, it's not black and white, and it depends upon the way the road is
It's like it's black.
functioning and how it's designed, et cetera. Collector is anywhere from 1,100 to 6,300, and local is less than 1,000 typically. And that's,
Can you be above or below those numbers that are on there?
yes, you
Okay.
can be, yeah, that's just a rough guide, it's just a general guidelines. And as I said, it's as much about how the roadway functions, how it's been designed, et cetera, so exactly.
Okay.
So I wanted to share with you the official WashDOT functional classification map here within the city of Liberty Lake. Megan was kind enough to take their map and put it in our map format so that, obviously the interstate's a pretty significant, piece that runs through our city. The red are the primary, other, principal arterials, and they're basically freight routes. You'll note that the Green Acres flyover.
We don't have that, do we?
Yeah, you do.
I've got the existing and future,
Oh,
and
you
then I've got,
don't have this one up there. I
Yeah,
just want
that-
you to see, I want
okay.
you to see what it was, and then what you need
Okay.
to see is what we're
Okay.
changing.
okay.
So anyhow, so this is what it is today. And you can see, so Kramer Parkway extension it's just a local, it hasn't been classified. And we have, Appleway as an example is only considered a minor arterial, and that's, and when you look at the volumes out there, the same thing
Yeah.
with Country Vista. And those, also, it's a minor arterial, basically south of the roundabout, south of the freeway on Liberty Lake, Harvard Road to Liberty Lake Road. And so anyhow, our volumes are significantly, this is the map that you already have. The volumes are, again, when we look at like Country Vista, today we have over 14,000 trips west of Liberty Lake Road. In the future, 20,000 in the developed area, 35,000 is the future ADT out there. Appleway also, we're looking at some pretty significant numbers there, and Harvard has always been considered a principal arterial north of the freeway. So we also have some pretty significant volumes projected for Mission Avenue through the River District. We don't have projections for Indiana at this point. We didn't have that, and a large part of that hasn't even been built, so it's very hard to do that. Anyhow, just wanted to share that with you because that was some of the input. We went through and working with Mitch Hatfield and KJ Handley with Parametrics, with Luke, with Ben, myself. We went through several iterations trying to figure out what the appropriate classification was. And we have come up with a proposed functional classification map. One of the things that I think is important is that if we have the volumes, that we want to at least see roadways classified as collectors, because you're not going to get any grant money for anything less than a collector. You have to make a good case. When you go from a collector to a minor arterial, you now have additional access controls. We did take into consideration like Mission Avenue in the River District as an example. We've done a pretty good job with the new development, but there are some areas where we have much older homes where we have a few more driveways in there. It's just the nature of the beast, and that happens. That is a property right that has been established. So again, these are general rules of thumb. When we look at Moultrie, dang, we have the volumes. The reason why we have the volumes is because of the schools there. But at the end of the day, we actually at one point looked at having the section from Appleway to, to Country Vista as possibly an arterial, but it didn't really make sense the way it was designed. The volumes are a little higher because of that, but at the same time, we also don't have the access control through that whole area. And so we felt like minor arterial was the appropriate classification for that, particularly given the way the road is constructed. And so, so we wanted to share these with you and kind of see, and I can go through and tell you segment by segment what we're doing. And I actually have a map here. This is actually, but it is actually, we have this listed in our, the transportation element that I'm working on.
This is
now.
very helpful.
Again, I would love to hear any thoughts or feedback on what we're proposing for classification, what your thoughts might be.
We don't,
You don't have that
I don't have it.
in the document yet.
yeah,
And I can send out this presentation
Okay.
to you afterwards, but I just took the time to actually list this because these are segments that we're gonna have to actually apply to WashDOT to change the classification.
and you've got the volume to justify it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so wanted to share, this is a pretty important piece of our transportation.
I think you guys have nailed the, and you've, on some of them that you turned into collectors, I understand. And the whole point is make sure that have available funds. Okay. We're not,
So then I want to talk to you about vehicular level of service standards. And so you've seen this already, vehicular level of service standards, typically at intersections, they're measured by seconds of delay per vehicle. And so you can see these are seconds, how long you have to wait at the light in the case of the signalized intersections, or how long you have to wait at a stop sign for the unsignalized intersections. There
How do
is
you-
also a level of service standard for roundabouts.
Roundabouts, yeah.
But it's a volume to capacity ratio, and anything over 0.85 is probably approaching failing. Anything over 0.9 is failing.
you described that on Harvard and
Right.
Mission.
Yeah.
Or the consultant did.
Yeah. So, I did want to share with you that, and one of the things, the city has adopted the county's level of service standard, because transportation is one of those things that typically you don't do. We always talk about our level of service being level of service D. Actually, the county standard is level of service D for a signalized intersection, level of service E for an unsignalized intersection. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And if there's discussion on that, I think we've always talked about it as just a level of service D. In my research, I realized that actually we have been misstating that. And I'm not sure if it changed or not, because our chapter doesn't actually identify that. It just says we're adopting the county standards. So that's vehicular level of service. So we have a standard that we're working with already. Again, this is, if we need to change that, that's something we should consider. One of the things I want you to think about as we get into the actual transportation chapter, however, is the fact that transportation is it's a regional network, it's a regional system. We need to plan for it. I will agree that our community has very limited patience for waiting at stop signs or signals. And so we have to,
Oil.
Yes, we are.
we have to be cognizant of that also, but the standard right now is the county standard, which makes some sense from a regional planning perspective. But so I want to talk to you a little bit now about multimodal level of service. And the RCW does 3678.070 does require that us to develop a multimodal level of service for all locally owned arterials, locally and regionally operated transit routes, active transportation facilities. So, and for state-owned transportation facilities, multimodal level of service standards for highways that have been adopted by the state. We'll be talking to WashDOT. In fact, this is one of the things I want to talk to the other members of our PTAC team to see how they're dealing with this.
How do they define multimodal? Pardon me.
So basically, it's bike, ped, transit, and the transit system. We are talking to Brian Jennings, who's the planning director for STA, and so I believe they do have kind of a mushy level of service standard. We will reflect their level of service standard in this document. We will reflect any adopted WashDOT standard. I don't think they've adopted a standard multimodal level of service standard yet, but we need to confirm that with WashDOT. We're in conversations with them
Lisa,
now. Yeah.
what is an active transportation facility?
So an active transportation facility, typically it is a bike path, a bike lane. It could be considered a sidewalk or a trail. So yeah, so it's basically
Park and
it's
ride
a-
facility.
yeah, a transit facility is also considered active transportation because the first and last.
A street?
So yeah, so within our streets, yes, we have, I mean, yes, technically, I don't know anybody who's combined all of those yet. I think you have to look at each mode separately and distinctly. But I wanted to just share with
Okay.
you approaches to multimodal level of service standards. And so, and just something for you to think about. We're going to be talking to others within the region and seeing how they're dealing with it. We have calls into SRTC to find out if they've actually done anything with this. It would be helpful if we were being consistent with our neighbors in the region. And I don't think, I'm not sure where everybody is with this yet. So, but I did want to give you some thoughts about it. So very basic way to approach multimodal level of service is really the old binary approach. Either you have your pedestrian facilities or there's no pedestrian facilities. It's a yay or nay. And that's kind of how our standards are written right now. You could also get a little fancier and kind of have different levels based upon ranking. So a type 1 bike path is a separated bike path. A type 2 is a bike lane. Type 3 is share the roadway. And so you could have priorities. You could even consider different facility types for different or different standards for different facility types. So you have a different standard for pedestrian facilities on an arterial than you would on a collector or a local street, as an example. So, and we have that in our standards, but we haven't teed it up in terms of in our design standards, but we haven't teed it up as a level of service standard. Again, I think if we talk about complete streets, that almost is kind of a multimodal standard. There's also, particularly on the west side, there are some examples where people have gotten way more specific. So again, the concept of specific facility attributes in specific contexts. And so like if areas that have higher pedestrian counts or higher bike counts, we don't even have the data to do that, frankly. We're too small of a city. There's also mathematical measures, such as volume to capacity ratios on bike facilities, bike lanes, even sidewalks, et cetera. Again, requires a higher data level. There's also more sophisticated level of service standards that try and measure comfort for the user, for the pedestrian user or for the bicycle user. And they have these formulas where they're kind of quantifying the qualitative, if you will, but and so there are some examples of those. Or combinations where they're kind of using that within the context of, are you an arterial or are you in a center? Yes.
Lisa, where do ADA requirements that are non-negotiable fit into any of this?
ADA is a separate requirement.
And it just
actually-
supersedes everything.
It supersedes everything, and
Okay.
we do have to include a plan for how what our plan is right now is that as we do grind and overlays, we're automatically upgrading the ADA facilities.
Okay.
And so we do have, that is something that we have to address. It's a couple sentences,
Okay.
honestly, but yeah, that ADA supersedes everything.
Gotcha.
Please, I have a question.
Yeah.
For the more sophisticated section, I don't know where to go, but cost.
Cost to develop those or the cost to measure those or?
Any of the
Or
above.
maintain it.
The cost to maintain, yeah,
Right, because
all of that.
you talk about we don't have the way to compile the data as far as if there's more pedestrians in a certain area or whatnot, but the thing that I always hear, why do they make bike lanes when bikes don't use them, or they use the sidewalk, or there aren't enough bikers to justify a full lane for bikes, that sort of thing, so the cost to return sort of things.
Yeah, well, there is that too, and those are all part of the conversation for some of the hybrids. And one of the things is that, and this is really true, that there are different classes of bikers. And the commuter biker is a different breed, and they're gonna ride on, it doesn't matter whether there's a bike lane or not. It doesn't matter, they're gonna ride on, if there's no bike lane, they're riding in the road. And it doesn't matter the speed, it doesn't matter the whatever. And but that probably represents significantly less than 10% of the bicycle riders. However, they're a very passionate small percentage of bicycle riders.
Well, especially in urban settings where you've got the messengers and
Exactly.
and then you do have to share roads and there are protections, but
Right,
there's also enforcement of.
exactly. And Tom, you know it well, having been on.
Take the
Spokane
lane.
City. And again, we could spend a lot of time or a little time. One of the things that, and something, I don't know that we have to decide how we're gonna handle it tonight. But I do want to think, I want you all to think about it a little bit. I'll be bringing back a draft of the transportation element to a next meeting. And this is one that, I think, given the time frame and the data that we have, we probably have to look more at the basic binary or ranked types of level of service standards for right now. And again, based upon our standards, I could kind of come up with something that would be reflective of that. I think if there is, and we're working with our sidewalk committee, if there is an interest to get more sophisticated, we could potentially, and I know that there are people who would say, if you don't measure it, it won't get improved. And so there's that. I'm not sure that we have the time or the capacity in this comp plan to go beyond something that's pretty basic. However, I do think that is something that if there is a passion for that the community could include that as something in the implementation chapter.
Well, you know, there's a passion for it, but it's a very small number of people. And I think to Troy's point, you can't design the entire transportation system around the 100 of us that ride bikes.
It's a fair statement.
Well, is it a chicken or an egg thing?
So if you're good with that, I thought we could go to the draft goals and policies. And I wanted to do those last because I thought some of the other discussion actually might influence the discussion on draft goals and policies. So I took a crack at the draft policy, but it's just that, it's just a for your consideration. Let's see if I can find it. So here we are. So we only had one transportation goal in the last comp plan, and that was maintain a multimodal transportation system that provides safe and efficient travel to, from, and within the city. It's on page 79. It's on, yeah. It's on,
Transportation still, right?
we're on
chapter 8.
transportation, yeah, and transportation goals and policies. I put at the end because, as you know, the old document had all the.
Oh, I got you. I'm there. Thank you.
So the bottom of page 79. So the transportation goal is to maintain a multimodal transportation system that provides safe and efficient travel to, from, and within the city. It's a pretty strong statement. I don't know if anybody had any changes to that. I did want to point out transportation policy number 2, continue to support and encourage the viability of the light rail system in the region. I don't know that we could even, it would even pass the smile test to talk about this being viable.
Maybe the chuckle test.
Yes.
Amy did point out, but again, we'll see what happens with the county comp plan. We don't have to have the same goals and policies that they do. But we may get pushback on that. Again, it's, as I said, these red lines are for your consideration. Take them or leave them.
So Lisa, I want to make a general comment because it's going to start with transportation policy new 3, where you start off with transportation improvements instead of the active words that you have throughout the rest of them. Coordinate.
Oh, cool.
Instead of starting off with a description of something like you did in 4, coordinate planning and stuff is a transportation. See, you're giving a statement. You're not giving an action. And we talked about this when we were doing the climate policy thing,
Oh,
remember?
yeah, that's a good point.
I'm just saying, if we make it consistent, it doesn't make any difference really how we do it, but
Right. Okay. That is a very good.
so
point.
there's a way of doing that in there and I didn't really have.
Yeah, no. So I will make that point. So this is on the new policy 2. I see what you're saying.
So we would say something like establish a transportation improvement development. See, it just,
Active.
right. And it keeps it, when we're reading it, it doesn't break it up into, what are we doing here? This is just a statement. And then it's kind of lengthy in terms of if it's not feasible, then a blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Because these are policies. This isn't, you don't
Right.
have to
Good
break them
comment.
down.
Good comment.
There's a couple of those, so.
So transportation policy 5 and 6, again, we've removed those as they're no longer relevant. Any other comments on this page 79? All right, I'm gonna go now down to page 80. Any comments from anybody on page 80?
Policies 13 and 14 also need to be active.
13,
Yep.
new 13 and 14?
New 13 and 14, right? And 15
Okay,
and 16.
all right. I like it.
Yeah, and 20 could be rearranged a little bit. Say, maintain adequate access.
The new 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
On transportation policy 24, the D&E, that's coming from the state or the county?
So that, yes, the D and E are the county standards, yes.
Does it necessarily reflect what we should have as a standard?
I think that it does, but again, again, we can go back and look at those, delays.
Because we're spoiled, you know, we want.
Understood. The challenge with stop controlled intersection and why it's a little bit longer than a signal is because typically, you're gonna have legs that are not as balanced as other legs. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Other comments on page 81.
There's some other policies that need that active voice verbiage in the front.
Lisa, back on page 80, I have just one question.
Sure.
Transportation policy 13. To the greatest extent possible, provide, and again, put provide in first and then change that, and integrated traffic control systems. And to include roundabouts.
So just provide so let me strike that out.
Because we don't have any place in this that we're discussing roundabouts. I know we have a little bit of a bias against them, but it's still.
Well, it's interesting because you say that, but there's two strong factions within the community.
Yeah, oh, I know. And the ones that are against, once we put it in, flip flop from 80-20 to 80-20 in support of them. So it's, to me, it's more a safety concern than it is anything else. To the greatest extent possible, we provide coordinated, integrated, and safe traffic control systems to include roundabouts. But it doesn't need to be spelled out.
I was gonna say, if you do that, then aren't you gonna have to put in
I think just say
traffic
integrated.
lights as well, or?
Well, intersections are definitely a part of this, and the
Right.
signalized intersections are throughout it. And then up in
Right.
number 12, it does say traffic controls, including but limited to signalized and roundabouts. So we do have it mentioned in there, so. Okay,
I think that
Okay.
works.
Okay,
just a thought.
that's it.
Okay. You're on page 81. I liked Amy's comment on the different things that are happening. By the time we write this, there's going to be several new categories of electric vehicles.
True that.
Yeah, I was just, the last one there, was it 29? It's not a policy, that's an action.
Yeah,
That's,
And the other thing is that I have a binding site plan and we're reviewing the plans that have.
I'm just saying, it's not a policy.
And it's already being done. It'll
Yeah.
be done by the time this is adopted.
this is for the other side over by the hub, the Cataldo
Yeah.
extension. Yeah.
Yes. So
Point.
I'm just gonna say that's a delete,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
what I
Well,
was
you kind of
proposing.
already said it there.
You did.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to be clear.
Do we still want to keep this policy? You asked us the question, I think.
Absolutely.
No.
No, thank you.
Hey,
Okay, thank you.
the other thing is, it's not in, but there was in terms of alternative modes of travel, I don't know if it's alternative or not, but there's this concept of transportation on demand Are you familiar with that?
I am, and so that would.
That's
be-
not included anyplace here.
It's really not, and it wasn't a thing back when this was written in 2005. But that is a good point. I mean, that's your Uber and Lyft.
Uber and Lyft, yeah.
And actually, even paratransit to some degree.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
So would you like me to just see if I could gin up something about,
uh-huh.
okay.
TOD.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, GIN, no, that's bad acronym, never mind.
It was getting near 5 o'clock.
I was thinking cocktail, what?
Tell.
Are there other policies that may be missing here? And you don't have to come up with all the answers today, because we are.
I thought it was a really good stab.
Yep,
Thank you.
good, great start. Any other comments on this section?
Is out somewhere. Are there going to be, signs of any type directly, that have a golf cart on it, to know where to stay, for people who are just moving in at that time, or people who are younger with licenses?
That's a great suggestion. I know that Chief Simmons is going to be presenting a workshop on this, and I don't know whether it's this next meeting or if it's coming up in the meeting in December.
Ben mentioned it in our bike pedestrian subcommittee, that the signs for those things would be something to be considered.
I think, and just creating maps that we can put out there as to where they're allowed. But again, one of the things that it would be premature of the ordinance that they're working on to try and kind of make it clear for all of, not just golf carts, but the e-bikes and e-scooters, et cetera. I think that it would be, I think that that's a great concept. And again, if we required registration for all of those, and with the registration handed out a map where you're allowed to go, that would be ideal.
And then signs and paint, the two cheapest things that you have, yeah.
Oh, okay. McDonald's and Chevron and all that, it's just one pole, and it's got all of those things that are earmarked there.
I like it.
Then it's a simple glance over, oh, I'm not supposed to be here, I'm supposed to be on the road.
Is that something that we want to maybe even suggest a policy around? Better guidance for,
Intermodal transportation methods. Not a bad idea.
Oh. And it doesn't cost a lot. Yeah.
What about drones? Got a policy on drones?
sorry,
Oh, it's not drones,
sorry, what?
oh, it's not drones.
Yes, I believe that they have to be licensed first and foremost. You have to be a licensed operator. I think the FAA controls it, actually.
Mhm.
This is an aside, but while visiting some friends for lunch at Friends Bridge, someone down the road, but beyond us, their drone was all the way on top of our dining room table while we were eating our lunch. Their drone was flying around, hovering around us, and it's like,
Hmm,
Get that flash water out.
yeah. Or another implement.
I didn't know.
Twin fifties?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Again,
That's not
FAA,
just-
yeah, it's, FAA, I think. but, oh, but they're not working right now. I'm sorry.
And nobody's flying, so no one's going on vacation now. Yeah, this is good, good work.
Alrighty, so let me save this really quick. Save those and then I'm gonna share something altogether different. So that takes us to reports.
First of all, citizen comments. Do we have any citizens online? Okay. Thank you. And we'll move on to report, Secretary's report.
So we're gonna have Jean and Charlie, their reappointment will be on the council agenda for November 18th. So if you both could, if you are available, it would be
time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And those, I think they,
Usually come pretty early.
sorry,
They're usually at the beginning.
yeah, they usually are. And so, yeah, if you could be present or via Zoom, whichever, if you can let me know, because they will ultimately ask me that question. There's that, we have a doodle poll out to schedule a kickoff meeting for our pedestrian master plan, or sidewalk master plan. And so, excited about that. Hopefully we'll get that going in the beginning of December. I just got back from vacation and I am buried, but we did, because inquiring minds do want to know, we just received the building permit application for Topgolf.
Oh, good.
So, that is good news. A lot going on development wise, just when we think it's gonna slow down a bit, it doesn't.
When is Chloe Alley coming?
What bowling alley?
It's the swimming pool.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been watching the little ones from the rockabye stage to the, I don't know what to do with my life other than walk the streets and let them fun. We don't have children. We have nothing for that youthful potential new visitor. So those are things.
We don't even have room in the
The
library. for
movie
a teen
theater, the movie theater's coming though.
Yeah, that's gonna go books. Yeah,
That's,
but I just threw that
What?
out there because that.
it's a small.
Yeah.
Like a dinner theater type.
It's, yeah, they've got four. They've got
I
four
know.
screens.
It's, isn't it in the River District? Isn't it right near the, yeah.
I have a question about Topgolf.
Yes,
Is that going to be adjacent to the Tesla facility?
Hmm.
No, it's the
No.
consigned furniture.
it's gonna be, yeah, it's actually the Topgolf facility is going to be just to the east of Kramer Parkway Bridge,
South of the freeway.
south of the freeway, yep.
What's going on there? Next to the Tesla facility.
That's
Okay, so
a
the
box truck
See,
dealer.
it's a box truck
Oh, yes.
facility, so. Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of places. It's,
Yeah.
Let it
I-
snow so that. they
I don't
can
have
slow
anything
down.
other meaningful to share with you, other than I will be hopefully getting a doodle poll going out shortly for our working group for the 20-year capital facilities plan. It still seems premature because the date is still out for much of it. However, I do want to, before the holidays, at least have a kickoff meeting where we kind of tee up, we kind of frame the tasks ahead. So that's all I got.
Any commissioner reports? Anyone? Our next meeting is December 10. So we won't be having two meetings in November, nor will we have two in December because of holidays.
Thank you.
I almost forgot. I did almost forget. My apologies. Our next meeting, we will be having a joint meeting with Parks and Recs regarding level of
Right.
service. So I'm very excited about that.
So that's the December 10th one?
Yes,
Okay.
December 10th.
Will that take our whole agenda?
I don't believe so. That, Jen, Dial is working on, a, memo to kind of explain the different options and to really walk through the pros and cons of different level of service standards. One of the things I will say, and one of the things that is very clear, and this is a yin yang kind of push-pull kind of thing. If we aren't meeting our level of service standards, we have to have a plan for how we're going to
Remedy that.
remedy that. If we are meeting our level of service standards, we're not as competitive for grants. So it's, so there's.
Yin and a yang.
Yep. Any other questions, comments, observations? Happy Thanksgiving. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Commissioner Jinks,
He seconds.
Commissioner, thank you, sir. I'm getting tongue tied. We are adjourned. Thank you.